My name is Jeremiah Heller. I am an award-winning curator, gallerist, owner of End To End Gallery in downtown Hollywood, Florida. So this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about me. We're going to talk how I took $150 and turned it into a $1 million fine art collection. I'm going to give you guys some tips to collecting, and then how to take those tips and actually apply it to right now in real time. So, about me. Born, as Evan said, in Silva, North Carolina. My mother and my grandfather are both registered members of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian. My father was 16. Excuse me. My mother was 16. My father was 17. And like most childhood young loves, unfortunately, their marriage did not last. Never really got to see my mother and father together. My mother moved to Virginia with my grandfather, and my father moved to St. Louis. And for most of my life, I was going back and forth from Virginia to St. Louis until high school. High school mid-season, I joined the cross-country team. I had an instant knack for it, and actually ended up that season on varsity, and it kind of gave me some normalization throughout high school. Ended up getting a full athletic ride to university, where I unfortunately got injured. That injury, which was devastating at the time, when I was in the pool trying to get better, there was a Discover Scuba class. From instantly that first time diving, it took me to a whole new world. Started within 6 months as an open water diver, became a dive master, got my instructor, and became a PADI scuba instructor. Taught all around the world. Got a job with Club Med, took a break from university, moved to the Bahamas, actually here in Columbus, Isle. It was some of the best diving of my life. We had schools of hammerhead that we were diving in every day. Wall diving, some of the best swim throughs that I've ever seen. Tranquil waters, this doesn't get visited by many people, so the fish still swim up to you because they're curious about you. This led me to Barry University. At the time, they were advertising a professional dive degree, and I was like, well, this is perfect. I still need to finish up school, so let's go and do this. I got there and I was a little surprised because I was a working professional for so long internationally. To go there and have to start over again with my open water, it just wasn't the fit for me. So I took another break from university, started working for South Beach Dive and Surf, and worked there until 2008. So that was about 28 years old. Was logging more time on the water, underwater, than I was on land. And it was I was getting a little bit burnt out. I was looking for something new. At the time, I was dating this lovely woman, my wife, right here, Alexandra Heller. And I actually gotten her a job at Gallery Art in Aventura prior to her getting me a job there. 2008 was a weird time. It's right when the economic crash happened. Tourist industry slowed down. There wasn't as much happening. Ken, he has a 8,000 square foot gallery in Aventura with over 10,000 pieces from 1,000 different artists. Major names: Warhol, Haring, Lichtenstein, Chagall, Picasso, Moreau. A lot of stuff from the 1980s, just a lot of random pieces. I started there cold calling, did not have any background in art, did not know anything about it. Literally worked my way up from cold calling to the gallery director over a period of 12 years. When I started working at Gallery Art, it was an interesting time because of the economic crash. Many markets' bottoms dropped, and from it emerged the urban contemporary art movement, graffiti, led by Banksy, Cause, some major forces in the art world where artists were, for the first time because of the internet, were able to self-release, self-promote, use the online tools that were available to not use the gallery system, not to kind of forge a whole new path. And through there, they were self-releasing, and I was buying Mr. Brainwash, Banksy, Pez, Martin Watson, these some young, but some named like Kenny Scharf, who's been around since, was best friends with Herring and Warhol and Basquiat, but whose flame had died out in the 90s for whatever reason, was suddenly getting this reemergence of interest. At Gallery Art, I got to work on $100,000 deals, $1 million deals, 8-figure deals, learning the nuances of buying, selling, trading, how to research, how to look at an artist to see if it's going to possibly be a good fit. And we got to try out the artists that I was bringing in and see how they reacted to the marketplace. I was 2012, one of the first galleries to bring that urban contemporary style to Art Basel here in Miami. And a lot of the galleries at the before 2015 were like, what are you doing? Why are you investing? Why? This is just a gimmick. It's going to, not last. But here we are a decade later, and it's still one of the more prominent art movements. It was my first experience exhibiting, putting together, curating exhibits. We got to do a Keith Haring show at Gallery Art, which was amazing. From Gallery Art, I got my wife. And my wife is my life. And, so it's been a crazy journey. It was finally there. I went back to university. I graduated, got a degree in business management with an emphasis in information technology. Went with her to Italy when she was doing an internship at the Palazzo Vecchio, doing the Hidden Passage tours and exploring and studying the Renaissance art, and which really kind of left us with the emphasis of knowing that we liked 1950 and forward. The Renaissance movement is great, but it really focused on where our specialization and our interest was driving towards. Building a collection while living, it gives us it put me in a unique place with her working in the industry. Not many spouses would be thrilled to say, hey, honey, I just spent $20,000 on a painting. She's been very supportive through all of it, and she understands what hopefully our goal is to build the collection. From Gallery Art, it led me to building this massive collection and opening End To End Gallery in downtown Hollywood. Our goal with End To End Gallery was to give us a place to showcase the type of art that we were interested in, the modern contemporary, urban contemporary. And it's been a great project going on for 4 years. We've done over 40 exhibits, 40 shows. We've been able to bring major names, Warhol, Herring, Salvador Dali, and present them every single month at the Downtown Hollywood Art Walk. It's where I got to meet Evan, and he comes in and does his gallery tours. And it's been a great addition into Broward County, bringing that art and culture into the community. We've showcased some local artists like Tiago Magro and Benjamin Sugarman, where we've done very immersive exhibits where we've let these artists come in and paint the entire walls and do really we try to do exhibits that will bring people in. We've exhibited all around the country through major art fairs. It's really where it's been fun curating these exhibits and taking the additions and prints and originals and being able to showcase them and transport them from Miami to San Diego to Santa Fe, Dallas, New York. With doing exhibits, we've won tons of awards, which has been fun. We've been around and got to take my unique curation style and show it. So 10 great tips for collecting fine art. Most importantly, what we've always tried to do is buy what we like. When I was buying in the beginning, I was buying what I like, not very expensive pieces, but it's what I was into. But advice is to conduct an advanced search or artist or particular item before buying. Don't just say, you know, go to a gallery and just look at a piece and say, great, I'll take it. Take a picture. Do a Google reverse image search. From that, you will find if it's available elsewhere, if you're getting a good price, if you're going to find out more about the artist by just doing a quick search before committing. And if you guys want the slides or any of the information, I do have a link I can share. There's a lot of misconception that you have to buy an original in order for it to be investable. It has to, you know, I have to buy an original piece of art in order for it to hold value over time. Prints are authentic art. They are limited edition, hand signed and numbered. When you're buying editions, you want to make sure it's a limited edition, not an edition of 900 or 1,000 or 1,500. Ideally, 150 or less. Making sure the print that you're buying is hand signed, not facsimile signed. You'll see a lot when you're buying major names like Chagall, Picasso, Moreau, that you'll find prints out there for very cheap on eBay, but you'll see facsimile signature. That means it's signed in the plate. It's not a hand signature. It's not going to hold the value of the prints that you see for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. There's a major difference. Even when it comes to buying posters, like from Banksy, they'll now with the requirement of putting high definition images online, it allows Chinese companies to take that image and reproduce it. So even with a Banksy poster, which could be worth $2,000 if it's an authentic item, they can take that, create a smaller image and put it on eBay and act like it's the same thing, because at the end of the day, it's a poster. So you have to check and verify the size and make sure that what you're buying is what it's supposed to be. Buy early. Most important thing is to establish a budget and then devise a plan. For example, when I bought this Symbolic Bozo, we purchased it in 2020. It was at the time, it was one of the more expensive originals we bought. It was $8,000. And on the catalog, it was $6,000, but because the demand was so high, the gallery that I bought it from raised the price $2,000 in order for me to lock it in. And at the time, I was upset. It's like, okay, so we took the leap, but then 2 years later, we sold it for $135,000. And now it's sitting on Artsy. The guy who bought it is trying to resell it again, but it is what it is. But we came up with our budget and we devised a plan. Our goal at that time was to buy a young emerging artist that was hype in the market and to see what would happen. And that was what the goal was. So, this is why it's nice having a wife who works in the industry. Like, big names don't have to break the bank. You know, there's a big misconception. This Nara poster they released from Dallas Contemporary Museum for $100 each, and now they're selling regularly for thousands of dollars. Banksy poster just released for 15 pounds. Now they're selling for $2,000 online. This is in the last month. And they were open edition, open for anyone available to buy. David Shrigley, Nicasio scarf, albums. Just because major names release items, scarves, posters, albums that go along with their expositions. These items are usually relatively cheap upon release and they go up in value. So it's a great way to build a collection without having to break the bank. Quality versus quantity. This is always a big debate for collectors because collectors always want to have more and get the next piece. But then there's the debate of, instead of buying 10 prints, to buy one original. Now, with that, there's always a counter argument. A great example would be Andy Warhol's Mick Jagger's. There are editions of 250. There's 10 different images, so it's a triage of 2,500 in the main edition, plus artist proofs, trial proofs, printer's proofs. So it's about 3,000 of them. The market value on them right now is about 200,000 each. It's a lot of money with an edition triage of 3,000 pieces out there. We really start thinking about it. But you look at what his originals sell for, and that's the market supporting the value. Whereas quality, like we purchased this Gerasimos Florados, he's represented by Alman Reich, Mitchell, Ines, and Nash. It's an artist who's got no social media influence whatsoever. You talk to major gallery dealers, and a lot of them still don't even know about him. We purchased it 2 years ago at $8,000, and the current primary price to buy a painting the same size is now $40,000 because of who's represented by them. So it can be, if you buy quality, you can generally see the results, but when buying quantity, you can sometimes, it's a gamble. You don't know where it's going to go. But there is a place for both quality and quantity in the art world. Cost doesn't determine quality. It doesn't. This Jenna Gribben edition of 20, it's a release price online. You just had to be online for that 30 minutes it was available. It was $150, an edition of 20. She just recently got a bunch of attention, and her originals went from being a few thousand to selling for over 100,000 at Christie's and Sotheby's, which instantly drove the price of this release up. It was at the time her only print release, and it turned it from $150 into a $10,000 print release just by being online, following the artist, and speaking to your friends. Keeping your collection diverse. There's no guarantee. We don't have a crystal ball and what's going to happen, what's going to be the next big movement. Right now, abstract is art. If you're an abstract painter, this is a great time for you, because that's what collectors are buying, is abstract art right now. Modern contemporary, urban contemporary, textile art, and black art is what's currently driving in auctions in the secondary market right now. Blue chip versus red chip versus emerging versus everything else. So blue chip art, those are your major names like Jackson Pollock, Andy Warhol, Keith Haring. Red chip is a term that many people aren't familiar with. Those are younger artists who have major representation, who are doing museum shows, have a hype, a buzz around them, and their prices are dramatically higher than their primary release price. And so most of these artists are born after 1980, doing their first shows, and they're coming out with $50,000, $60,000 prices on originals, and it's before a lot of the markets are even tested. But there's just so much hype, there's nothing else out there that is driving collectors to buy it. Emerging is a gamble. When you're buying emerging, go back to buying because you like it. And when you say everything else, when you go into a gallery, there's tons of stuff out there. There's tons of artists out there, and not to say an emerging, everything else artist is not going to make their way into an emerging or into a red chip or into a blue chip, because it happens all the time. But you have to, if they don't have representation, they're not in a museum, they're not selling at auction, it's only worth what someone will pay. Instagram and mailing list. Learn about shows and upcoming releases. Instagram is one of the greatest tools for artists. There's galleries who do all their sales strictly on Instagram, doing an insane amount of business. Visit fan sites. If you're into urban art, join Urban Art Association, where you can learn about all about the different urban artists, where their shows are at, pieces that are constantly coming up available for sale. Graffiti prints, Shrig Shop. Once you find these artists that you like, you can generally find where they're selling merchandise, where they're selling pieces. Don't forget about logistics when buying. It's one of the biggest things that people forget. So you're buying something in a PDF for X, but in actuality, you're buying it from Italy, and now you have to spend $3,000 to ship it from there to your home. You have to be conscious of where you're buying, the shipping, the handling, packing, insurance, duties, taxes. Even when buying at auction, there's hidden fees that, taxes, handling fees, packing fees. You have to be kind of ready when you're buying it. So expect a 20 to 30% increase at auction up top of whatever you're buying. Most importantly is to have fun. That's why we're doing this, is to have fun. It's more fun to collect with a group of friends. I have four friends that I collect with, and from collecting with friends introduce you into art movements, into artists that you might not have discovered yourself. And a lot of the artists that we've had some of the greatest success with buying is become from advice from friends. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I don't know how many Warhols, how many Herrings, how many Picassos I've looked at and viewed, and they're just not correct. They can have an estate stamp on the back. They could have all the things that appear correct, but you look at it just closely, there might be a capital T instead of a lowercase t on the estate stamp on the back. They've gotten very, very good. So a great story would be is when I was working at Gallery Art, we had a Magritte, Rene Magritte original, and a client. It was been in his family for 3 generations. His father was friends with Magritte. They had photos of Magritte in his house for Thanksgiving, and he showed pictures of it in his house over periods of time. He had a letter from Georgette Magritte saying that it was absolutely correct. We sent it to the foundation. It was a costly, timely, tons of paperwork. It was there for 6 months. They returned it back to us with a letter with one line: "We cannot confirm or deny its authenticity." Even with all that, they would not want to add it into their catalog, would not want to add it into, because they'd have to reissue a new catalog. They'd have to republicize it, and that costs money. And unless you're willing to give 50, 60, 80% of that value back to that foundation, there's no reason for them to say, yeah, this is correct. It's better for them to keep it on the sidelines, keep it gray, keep it with a question mark. It goes back to, it's worth what someone will pay. But if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So you go to live auctioneers, there's 100 Warhols, 100 Keith Harings that you can buy right now for under $1,000, and they say they're original. They're not. So a lot of people can give you tips, but how can you take these tips and actually apply it right now? What can you do right now? What piece of art can you buy right now that you can actually buy as an investment, buy to enjoy, and actually turn it into something? We're actually doing a Ralph Steadman show. That's the show that we're opening on November 18th. He was born in 1936. He's not getting any younger. So that's one of the things that you can look towards when buying investment quality art. In this case, Ralph Steadman was the illustrator for Hunter S. Thompson. So he did Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp, Where the Buffalo Roam with Bill Murray. Journalists, icon for the last 50 years. His affordability, you can still buy his hand-signed and numbered prints for like a couple $100. And recently, there's been high results at auctions for $10,000 for the prints a couple of years ago that were selling at the same $200 price point. So he's a great speculation, and it's a great artist to look towards. David Shrigley, right now on his website, the Shrig Shop, you can go and buy this poster for 45 pounds. On October 31st, which was like a week ago, same day, the same print that you can buy for 45 pounds sold at this auction house for 317 and at this auction house for 756. And you can literally go at right now and buy that same poster for $45. And so you get an instant equity within the purchase. Catherine Bradford, again, born in 1942, a Guggenheim Fellow, Rappaport Prize winner. She's placements in the Met, the Brooklyn Museum. Prints are still relatively affordable, under $5,000. This original here, we bought in the last 2 months. I bought it for $10,000. I put it up on my website for $35,000. Within 2 weeks, it sold for $30,000. I didn't think it would happen. I was surprised when it did happen, but it happened. And it's just because everyone's looking and speculating now on older artists who had major representation, major success. Peter Saul's another great example. And of course, Keith Haring. It was, Keith Haring's a major name, but 7 years ago, 8 years ago, a pop shop was 10,000. Now a pop shop's 40,000. And so you're seeing, even in some of these major blue chip markets, an insane amount of growth. So with blue chip, it's more about getting your feet in, getting the piece, acquiring it. Once you have it, you hang on. There's no better gift than a grandfather or a parent can give to a child than buying a Warhol or buying a Haring and then passing that down to them in life. It's one of the best ways to pass down and transfer wealth. And guys, I want to thank you very, very, very much for coming.